This is XY Spark, restoring holistic, healthy masculinity. Hey guys, good evening. How are you guys doing out there? This is your boy, your men's coach Rolando, and my co-host Rolando Jr. We're here again another evening, guys, and we are just excited. I promised you guys that my co-host would be back. He didn't desert us.
I didn't deserve
Everyone
it.
was asking where you are, Nando.
Change the office. So I had to change. I changed some office stuff. So I was down for a little bit, network
Yeah,
wise.
yeah,
So
but you're
I'm
doing
back now.
okay now. You're doing okay now.
Yes, 100%,
Yeah, man,
100%.
we're glad to have you back, bud. And we are definitely excited to continue our conversations as we seek to have a podcast that has to do with empowering more men and helping more men to really become the best version of themselves and reach their true potential, and that's our goal here on XY Spark, because we believe that there's definitely a spark in you, and we want to seek to ignite that spark so
Hmm.
you take back control of your life and become the best version of yourself.
Right.
you know and we want you guys to know that next week on the 26th, unfortunately we will not be here, because next week I have to be out in the community here. I've been invited to a special presentation about the impact of mental health on the Afro-American community, and how we can become more sensitized around the fact that mental health does not discriminate. So I'll be out in the community next Wednesday. So guys, we will not be here. So please don't come online and say, "Hey, where did these guys go?" We're not going to be here next week. All right.
We'll
Uh,
definitely pick up back though. We
what's
pick
that?
we pick back up the following week. We'll be here
If
live and
you pick that up, I'm going to try and see if I can record some of what I spoke about there as well and make that available, even in the XY Spark app and stuff, so you can hear some of the work that we're doing in the community. If you're joining us live on Facebook, we want to also send a shout out to our Facebook page. Is growing exponentially. We're tapping over 500 and counting now, Nando. So our Facebook page, XY Spark, is growing at the speed of light. And I want to send a shout out to the rest of the XY Spark team who are working behind the scenes,
right.
and that's really been great, going good. So shout out to you guys out there. And so we're live on Facebook, we're live on LinkedIn and Twitch, and we're also live on the Podbean app. So if you want to join the conversation, please feel free to join in. What are we talking about tonight, Nando?
What is expected as a man? What is expected of you? What's the expectations?
Okay,
What are the
okay.
expectations of being a man?
All right. And tonight we're going to be talking, guys, about some of the stereotypes and
Right.
how that is impacting men's identity.
Hmm.
Because as men, there's so much stereotypes that are out there. And this evening, Nando and I are going to have a conversation about some of those stereotypes. So, Nando, don't know if you want to jump right into it as we get the ball rolling, as we talk about some of those stereotypes that as men we have to deal with every single day.
Well, I mean, oh my God, there's a lot, as we know, pretty much, but it comes down to certain stereotype. It all goes down to where you are in your life or where people expect you to be.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us could be at peak at 20. Some we will be
Mm-hmm.
at 40 or 50. I mean, that's just what it is. But if we're to get into it, if we're to kick it off and saying as myself as a young black man, I'm in America. I didn't grow up in America. I grew up in Jamaica. You know,
Mm-hmm.
in my country or in our country, there's a lot of expectations for men.
Mm-hmm.
Men, you have to, as you know, take care of the house. You have to make sure this is done, that is done. Everybody's happy.
Mm-hmm.
But over here in America, it kind of is different based on what I'm seeing and hearing from my friends. There's not a
Mm-hmm.
lot of expectations here in America for most men because most women here are pretty independent themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
if you find that right one who respect you for what you can offer and also that's different. But I think it changed over time of what the expectations of men. As for you, that I mean, what I can do is punch back a question at you. You've been working with men pretty much, young, old, in between. What
Mm-hmm.
are some of the expectations that you hear that they're pouring out to you and asking you about?
Okay, okay, good question, and and when you talk about stereotypes, there are so many different stereotypes, as you alluded to earlier.
Right.
And one of the big things that I've heard is a recurring decimal. There are a lot of men who society expects them to be the the provider. Society expects them to be the guy who is making the most money in the relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
what I find is that there are a lot of men who feel that if they're with somebody who is making more money than they are, then they feel like they are not meeting the expectations as it relates to that which society has handed down for them. So there are a
Right.
lot of men who they're struggling in their relationships because they just feel like they're not making enough money, and because they're not making enough money, there are some men who they're going through a lot of chaos in their relationship because some men, their partners, make them know that because they're not meeting up to the standards, somehow they make that man feel like he's less than a man in the home. So that's one of the stereotypes where men have got to understand that even if you have a job and you're not making as much money as your partner, you should not let that prevent you from being the man that you were made to be, which means you still need to be confident in your relationship. You
Mm-hmm.
still need to fulfill those roles that you have in the home. If you're a dad, be a dad and be the best that you can be, and be the best partner you can be, and be confident about what you are contributing to the home. Remember that your worth and your value is not only in the amount of money that you are making in the home. Yes, making a certain amount of money is important, but if
Right.
you're in a relationship where your partner is making more money than you, do not let that be the main thing that interferes with your ability to continue to be a good partner to your spouse and to be a good role model to your kids.
Okay. Now, just to fill everyone in, I'll make sure I fill everyone in so we know what we're talking about. The topic is what are some of the stereotypes that impacts a man's identity? And I shoot a question out to my dad where he's on the spot tonight. So if you all online want to ask questions too, feel free. I'll also read them out so he can give his input because it's his profession. Where how long you been working with men now? Dad, pretty much how long have you been?
In total, I say over 1.5 decade.
Okay.
So it's a lot of years. It's a
It's a
lot of
lot of
years.
years that he
Yeah.
has put in. So, all right, a lot of the like this question was asked to me actually by a friend of mine.
Hmm.
It was asked to he asked someone and someone asked me because they know what you're doing, and pretty much young dude, 35 years old,
Hmm.
and he's going through something now where he's going through a marriage situation now, and he's trying to figure out pretty much reverting back to his old ways because of he think that he's not doing enough for this person. Now,
Hmm.
what I would ask you, as you
Hmm.
just explained, we're saying pretty much don't let whatever if your partner is making more than you, don't let that revert you away from still being who you think you can be, taking care of your kid, do the best you can do to represent yourself well.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to a man who thinks that, all right, he failed at marriage or he failed at his relationship, he's failed his household, and he feels like he has to revert back to his old life so he can get some respect?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to a person
Mm-hmm.
who's thinking like that?
Yeah. I would say to this man first, you first have to respect yourself and know what your values are. You know, relationships are hard. Relationship takes a lot of work. All right. And if a man is in a relationship and somehow he feels like, hey, I failed, my marriage didn't work out or my relationship didn't work out with my partner, reverting back to those old behaviors is as if you are admitting defeat. It's as if
Right.
you're saying, I don't have enough stamina and drive to make it through this rough patch and continue to be the person that I know I have the potential to be. You see, failing at a relationship does not define you. All right? Nobody's perfect. There's no one who can guarantee that when you're in a relationship, it is going to work out all the time. Because guess what? People have different temperaments,
Mhm.
and oftentimes because of the unwillingness sometimes of the party to work on things, then it becomes harder. What you've got to remember is when a relationship does not work out, it becomes a difficult place for you to be in where you're only blaming yourself.
All right.
Because sometimes what I find happening is there are men who they're blaming themselves, but they're also taking responsibility for the decisions that their partners made. And the moment you start doing that, it's as if you're saying everything that happened in the relationship is all because you did not do everything right. But
Mm,
it takes two for a relationship to work.
true.
So I would say to this guy, you have to start with forgiving yourself. You have to start by acknowledging that even though I failed at this marriage, it doesn't mean that I'm a failure. Failing at one thing does not automatically define you holistically as a failure.
What
And
did
you
they
have
say?
to,
Failure is
pardon?
not bad.
Failure, okay, no, what Nanda is saying, failure is not bad. And why I'm saying that, Nando, is based on your question. There are definitely some guys who they feel because it didn't work out for them, they have failed.
Hmm.
And that's kind of a hard stance to take, because no one has any guarantee that when you start a relationship it's going to work out for sure and go all the way till death do you part,
Right, right.
right? And so if that didn't work out, it's important for you to not automatically pronounce failure on yourself. It would have been a different way for you to say, hey, you know what, I tried and it didn't work out. I've learned some lessons here. Okay, now I know those things that I don't want to do moving forward. Or now I know what red flags to look for. Now I
Hmm.
know how to conduct myself differently going forward. But to automatically create that space in your mind where you say, I am a failure, I am no good, and revert back to your old ways is as if you're admitting defeat and saying to yourself, you don't have what it takes to do better. And I want you to know that you do have what it takes to do better. You've just got to start believing in yourself again. Forgive yourself for the mistake that you have made. Dust yourself off and start that new chapter of your life again.
As I was saying, failure is not bad. I was reading in a book. It says failure is not bad. What's bad is when you don't learn from the failure that put you in the spot that you're in.
Mm,
If you don't learn from that failure, especially as
mhm,
a man,
mhm,
always it's not to sound sexist or stereotypical or anything like that, but pretty much most times when a man like fails like really bad, it's harder for him to get back on his feet than a woman.
mhm, mhm. Well, and why is that though? And sometimes it's a psychological issue.
Right, and it's also society, especially if that
Mhm,
woman is beautiful.
mhm,
She can
mhm,
get back on her feet faster than a male. But
Yeah.
sometimes what happens as male, we take it out as depression and we start drinking and we turn to stuff that is not good for us and good humane for our actual masculinity. It's
Yeah.
actually bringing us down more. You think I'm drinking my problems away. You're not doing that. You're actually going back
Mm-hmm.
to worse failure than you're already in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying. Failure is not bad. What's bad is when you don't learn from that failure that puts you in the spot that you're in. You're not
Yeah.
you're not evolving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And one guy said it this way. One guy said that failure is not final, it's actually finding ground.
Right.
Okay. So when you talk about stereotyping, Nando, one of the things that society expects of us as men is society expects us to deal with our disappointments in unhealthy ways. So society expects us to drink. That's why there's a bar just about on every corner.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
I'm not
because
even part
society
of liquor
expects, yeah,
store. Liquor store.
society expects us to cope with our problems that way. All
Mm-hmm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's always a drug dealer somewhere. All right. Because society expects men to deal with their issues in unhealthy ways. And so the stereotypical model that is set out for men is that when we are in a bad spot, what happens is the system has created it in such a way where we can easily access the tools that are going to send us on that downward spiral as it relates to dealing with stress, dealing with disappointment in unhealthy ways. And so that's why as men it's going to be important for us to seek to find a safe space where we can process those negative emotions effectively and learn how to push back at the impulsive desire to go and drown our sorrows in alcohol or drown our sorrows in a binge or drown our sorrows on the internet by watching porn for hours, drown our sorrows in gambling, or thinking that, hey, if I can have as much sex as is possible with as much girl as possible, that will help me to feel better about myself. When the reality is, it only causes us to feel worse because we're still not being fulfilled. It's only a temporary gratification.
Temporarily fix. You get fixed for 10 what the day maybe, and you're back.
Mm-hmm,
That's what I'm saying. You're failing again
mm-hmm,
miserably this time. As men, we have to. I think we just need to take charge more and take back that authority because we're like I'm looking at it. I'm in my late 20s, going into a new era of age, which is 30s or whatever. But I'm looking at it, and my peers who are younger than me,
mm-hmm,
it, it's horrible. They like
mm-hmm,
have alcohol taking them over.
mm-hmm.
The parties, the drugs, the this. That's the fun now. But I'm like, what's gonna happen when you're 40 when you can't when all that is just coming back against your body?
Mhm,
You know,
mhm.
as men, it's just sad, but that's why we're here at XY Spark. We're here to help as best as we can, and also learn while we're helping.
Yep,
You know,
absolutely.
also learn while we're helping because it's a rough and sad world out there, especially for men right now. We're
Yeah,
losing it. We're losing it. Yeah.
yeah. And the powerful thing, Nando, is seeking to create a space where more men can challenge themselves to come out of their comfort zones so that they can start becoming the best version of themselves
Right.
and, and placing the value on themselves that they should. And you see, I think one of the big issues is that as men, a lot of us don't feel that we have any value. We really don't feel that we have any worth because we've been through a lot of painful relationship situations, and those scars, those wounds that we that we gained from those experiences that we have had, we haven't really um, come out of that rut as yet. So we continue to stay within the confines of that pain, that disappointment, that hurt,
Mm-hmm.
that relationship that we're no longer in, where we sometimes have made these persons like our world, and when they're no longer around, it's like we have no idea what to do with ourselves as men, and we have to start reclaiming our identity and reconnecting with who we are when we're standing by ourselves. And a lot of us as men, we have not yet learned how to stand on our own by ourselves, and learn to enjoy our own company. We don't understand how to do that. So we constantly feel like there has to be someone else around us for us to feel fulfilled.
Once
And
you
and
master that, though, enjoying your own company as a man, it's a whole different feeling.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
But my
right?
question to you, right after you finish, I have a something for you to think about while you finish up your thought. What are
Mm-hmm,
some steps you would say men should take to take back?
mm-hmm. Yeah, and thank you for that question, because if we're going to take our lives back from some of those things, and we've
Mm,
got to start confronting our inner demons,
mm,
right? We have got to be willing to confront those inner demons and ask ourselves really deep, practical, honest questions. For example, like, you know um why have I been living my life this way now for the past 5 years or 10 years or 15 years? Okay, we have to ask real question. Ask ourselves, hey, you know what? Why is this thing triggering me to cause me to react the way that I've been reacting to it? All right. Why do I find it easier to go home on the weekend and drown my sorrows in alcohol and drugs, versus stepping forward and acknowledge that I need to get professional help? So, if we're going to take our lives back, we're going to have to identify what are the barriers. Is it trauma? Is it grief? Is it disappointment? Is it that we're feeling a lot less empowered than we normally are? Is it that I'm depressed? Is it that I'm anxious? So if we're going to take our lives back, we're going to have to sit down and do what I call personal evaluation, whereby we can identify what specifically is going on with me that needs to be different. And the moment we start asking those questions, it will force us now to slow down and to look a little deeper. Because, see, as men, we don't really like to spend too much time to look deep. We don't
mm.
really like to spend too much time to even ask too much emotional questions, because by virtue of culture,
You want to feel less than.
yeah, and society, you know, real men, quote unquote, don't talk about all those feelings and those stuff, right?
True.
We real men should be stoic. Real men should be strong. Real men should be motivated all the time, and be able to solve that problem by themselves. That's the mentality of a real man. But if we're going to take our lives back, we're going to have to step away from that stereotypical way of thinking, so that we can start experiencing life through a new lens. And that new lens is going to be cleared up when we start being brutally honest with ourselves and invest the time to do the work that's necessary.
Well, you hear it there. You hear it there from the coach himself, Mr. Orlando. But just to keep people up on what we're talking about, so I want no one to not be able to follow. We're asking pretty much. We're just the topic tonight is what are some of the stereotypes and that impact a man's identity, or what are some of the stereotypical stuff that people say, hey, you're a man, so you should be able to do that. I'm just shooting questions, asking coach pretty much, what are some of the stuff that he encounters while he goes, he sees people day to day, day in, day out, maybe 6 days a week. I don't think he does it on a Saturday. That's his day of worship.
Yeah.
But, also one more thing that I've been hearing a lot, and as I was you on the spot, I'll ask you, why are men afraid to do therapy?
Why are men afraid to do therapy? Because a lot of men do not see therapy as something for a lot of men see therapy as something for the weak.
Hmm.
All right. And so if your perception of therapy is that is something for the weak, then you definitely aren't going to do it. Another piece is that there are some men who culturally they do not see therapy as something that is a need because it's as if mental health does not exist.
Hmm.
And for me as a man to go talk to somebody about my problems, how is that going to make me look? What will my mom think if she finds out, or my dad think if he finds out that I'm going to therapy? So a lot of men see therapy as something for the weak. A lot of men see therapy as something that people who are not strong or people who are not capable enough do. And that's why a lot of men don't do it because the people that they surround themselves with, they themselves see it as what is that, and who does that, so a lot of men don't. But one thing that I've noticed, and I want to give a lot of credit now to those men, a lot of men now are pushing back at that stereotype. Okay, because over the years I've received more calls now from men who are saying, Roland, you know what, I want to work on myself. I want to work on my relationship. I want to i want to start living my life different. I'm tired of living my life this way or doing things this way. So there are a lot of men now, Nando, who they're actually starting to break that cycle. There's a lot more work that needs to be done, but a lot more men are starting to break that cycle now, and they're coming out and they're saying enough is enough. And a lot of men are not worried about who is going to think what now. It's like more men are starting to take ownership
Right.
for the creation of a new consciousness whereby they can have a different mindset so that they can approach the idea of mental health in a more strength-based positive way. And what I found is the men who are doing that, they are really enjoying the results of that new experience.
See, now it's just that it's just crazy. Growing up when I heard about therapy, and then I started having friends, and you start saying, "Yeah, I should go to therapy." No, they're like, weak men go to therapy. You're a man. You're supposed to. You must. You have to fix it. You have to do it. You have to figure it out. When I started therapy, my whole perspective about therapy was changed.
Mhm.
Conflict of interest, it's just that therapy to me, I think it's a great thing for both male or female. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's always it's like a middle ground. Even if whatever you're saying that the sky is red, it's madness to everyone. Your therapist will understand, and
Mm-hmm.
some people just want to feel that understanding that someone say, okay, I'm understand where you're coming from. It's okay. You know. Now, one of
Mm-hmm.
the craziest thing that I'll ask you as a therapist, like you as you said, you see the age groups. Your oldest, I don't know what your oldest client is. I don't know what your youngest is, but I know you have to be between 20 and 90. You have to see people between those age group for sure. Would you say that the younger generation is more open, or like open into getting professional help, or would you say it's like on a 50-50 scale now, based on your statistics of what you're seeing of your clientele or people that you
Right,
work with?
right now, I have to say that I find that guys who are between age 18 and 30, they are a lot more open and aware of the need for supports. Okay.
All right.
And it's really been refreshing for me to see that, because you know years ago, when I was a teenager, therapy was like a foreign language.
Mm-hmm.
And now I see where it has evolved to the point where guys who are in their early teens, mid-teens, they're reaching out now and say, hey, Rolando, I want to talk to somebody. you know but also I've seen where a lot of my clientele is really starting to be men who are in their mid 30s all the way up to their mid 50s. So something is definitely happening in the area as it relates to men being more open, but there's still a lot more work that needs to be done. And I believe one of the big things that may need to happen is just for more men to understand that there is a safe place, and a safe place where they can go and talk about those stuff and not feel judged, and not feel like they're weak, and not feel like they're missing the mark. And I think those are some of the big barriers that has to be addressed for more men to come out and say, hey, you know what, I don't care about any of that. I'm just tired of living my life the way I am, and I'm going to go all in, and I'm going to invest and work on myself. Why? Because it's now or never. So I've definitely seen where a lot more younger men are coming out, but the men who are in their mid 30s going all the way up to mid 50s, they are also gradually starting to open up and reaching out to work on themselves. So something is happening, Nando. Something is happening.
So pretty much you're in Canada. So, I was looking at stats just now because I'm big on stats based on research, and you're absolutely right. The reason why I asked that question, again, for our audience who are listening, the question is, what are some of the stereotypes that impacts men's identity? When you get over to that age of 30 going up, there's a lot of stuff that as a man that is expected of you to already accomplish, already have, or have going. No 30-year-old man want to tell someone, hey, I'm in school trying to finish up my high school, and nobody want to tell anybody that. If you even go to a female as a man and tell her that, depending on the female, you might get looked at like, oh no, big red flag. When in turn, they don't know what you are going through, or how or why you didn't get to do that. So the reason why I asked that, like statistics also showing that a lot of men are hanging themselves, killing themselves, because nobody's hearing them, that they can't talk to anyone, and they're look up on, like, you know, there's no coming back for you. But in your line of work, like what advice would you have to to those guys out there who, whether they listen to this podcast now or later on, whether, if they need some help, what's the best advice you would say you could give to any age group? It could be 100 years old. Who cares? Once they have understanding, the same thing we're going to be hearing. So, what advice would you have to
My
guys?
advice, my advice would be before you give up and pull the plug, make sure that you have at least tried to reach out to a minimum of 2 or 3 persons. Don't just quit and give up. Reach out to 2 or 3 persons, and as I'm here in the podcast, I'm taking this opportunity to let more men know that if you really need to talk to somebody, you can reach out to us here on XY Spark,
Definitely
wherever you are around the planet. You can reach out to us.
reach out to me
Okay,
on Facebook if you want. I'll link you straight to the coach himself. For sure.
right?
Definitely.
Right? Message us, but at least try to reach out to at least 2 persons and try to talk to somebody before you decide to pull the plug. Because let me say this to you, brother, wherever you are located right now, and I don't even care about what race, class, or ethnic background you are. This is all I'm saying to you is this: you have a lot more worth than you know. You might have not gotten it right. The people might be mad at you. Your girlfriend may say, "Hey, I don't want to see you again." Your parents may treat you like the black sheep of the family. You might have lost a job that was important to you. You might
Mhm.
have made some bad financial decisions. I'm saying to you that in spite of all of that, you still have the potential to come back from that rut.
Mhm.
But you can't do it by yourself.
No, not
And
possible.
so reach out to somebody. Let's talk with you. Let's connect with you. Let's see how we can coach you from that dark place that your mind is sort of being saturated in, and let's work through it together. So that's my appeal to you, brother, wherever you are located. Don't give up until you would have exhausted all that's available. Is it easy to find the support from men? I know it's not. And that's why we're saying we're here, reach out to us. And if we can't help you, we'll try to connect you with somebody who can. And that's
Definitely.
the important piece. Okay, guys.
All right, good. I mean, you hear it there live from the coach himself. If you ever feeling like that, we have our XY Spark app. It's in the Play Store. You can always reach out. You have a therapist on hand right there. You only get in there tons of material, tons of stuff that you can work on that can help you to not, have people point at you in a certain way and be like, okay, you're that, so you have to be that. There's help. Because as I said, we were talking about, going to therapy and stuff. Before I know about therapy, I would never tell anyone to go to therapy until I started. Help me, with a lot of stuff. We're not perfect here. I'll always be, as a co-host, I'll always be open and tell you straight up. We all had our issues, and through therapy, I got help through therapy. And start reading and getting my mind right and getting out there. So, guys, it's not no shame. We're not ashamed to tell you about ourselves. Coach here, as you all know, is my dad. He had his story why he's so working so hard and helping as much men as he can to let them know that, hey, listen, it's okay, buddy. It's not, you're not in this alone. We're here to work with you. One final question, I mean, I always, because our questions can stretch a wide base, based on our topic. What are some of the stereotypes that impacts men's identity? You know, my question is, as a father, yourself, you have me and then you have two little ones, right? Should should a man allow any situation or anything that's going on to impact in the way in which he take care of his kids or teach his son? Because remember, it all stems from one generation. It continues, and if it's not broken somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
or fixed somewhere, there's no hope. 'Cause it's gonna continue forever.
Mm-hmm.
So should a man just say, oh, you know what, let me stay away because I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do that, and your son is just left like just to pretty much grow and learn how to become a man by himself. Should a man abandon that responsibility?
And the answer to that is it's right there in your face. But there are so many things to be considered, Nana, as it relates to that question,
Right.
because there are men that have made some bad decisions
Mm-hmm.
where they have no contact with their sons for a while. Okay, there are men who have made bad decisions and they're incarcerated, so they have no way of connecting with that kid. There are men who they choose to not be in their kid's life because they feel that that's their way of for getting back at their partners, because he has not been the best version of himself. He's not bringing his best game to the relationship, and so this woman decides, hey, he's not for me, and so he decides that he's going to let this kid suffer by not being in his life. And what I would say to this man is that you've just got to get your act together. You've
Mm-hmm.
got to recognize that even if you're no longer a part of her life, you guys are still connected because you had a child together, which means you have a responsibility to role model what it looks like to this kid to be a real man, a balanced man, a man that's loving, a man that's emotionally intelligent, a man that is able to guide and groom and teach this kid, even if you're no longer around with his mom, but to teach him those basic values so that he can grow up in the community and he can hold himself to certain standards. So a man should not, by virtue of choice, just choose to say he's not going to be a part of his son's life or his daughter's life.
Right.
Okay, there are circumstances that cause him to not be, but once it's possible, my thing is to say to him, he has got to make sure that he plays his part and be present as much as he can in his kids' lives so that they can learn how to function and to live in the world.
All right. This is what I say. I mean, very key, very key. I mean, I hope people are taking notes. I'm taking my notes. I'm telling you, I'm here taking my notes. Because when you get in first-hand view of the coach and can ask him questions, you gotta be able to ask him stuff that okay, should I use this guy or not? Based on me judging from the outside, whether it's my father or not, I think I would be able to use this guy because he could help me to get rid of some of these stereotypical stuff that is expected of me as a man. Stuff that I'm not ready for as yet. But that I just wanted to say pretty much, out to all the guys who are listening now, or whoever is listening now, and listening later, our audience. It's a marathon, okay? It is a marathon. Being a perfect guy with healthy masculinity and a straight path. You know, Long story. I was in a bar, right, and pretty much this guy was there, and he literally, like, real story. It was like, I'd rather be here than be home, right? He's drinking. He's having whiskey. He's drinking, man. He's drinking. No joke. He's in his work clothes and everything. He's not going home. You know the reason why he didn't want to go home? It's not.
No.
It's not his wife or his kids.
Hmm.
He just don't like being there. So every time he goes home, feels like he's a kid too. And I said to him, "But you said it's not your wife, right?" He's like, "The thing is, the person I'm married to, she don't have to say anything. It's just that the energy when I get home,
Hmm.
I feel less than a man."
Hmm.
Now this,
Hmm.
I don't know this man. Circumstances happen. I just like. Take your time, man. You're going that hard, ain't you know? And he's just like, you know what? Listen, I want to go home, man. I'd rather stay here and drink until everybody fall asleep. I crawl in, man.
Yeah.
And right there to me, I'm like, I would never want to be in that situation as a man.
Mhm. Mhm. And now here's a case in point, Nando, where he has got to stop running away from what's going on. He has got to face that. He has got to sober up.
I'm gonna send it. That's what I'm saying.
He has got to go home, sit with his partner. Okay, if he can't sit with her alone, they've got to go talk to someone that's neutral to work
Right.
on whatever work is that's going on. That he doesn't need to feel that way when he's home. Okay, maybe she has something that she is dealing with as well, but for him to continue to run away and try to drown himself by being at the bar, that's definitely not going to come up with any solutions, because what is going on there is he's hurting himself, he's hurting the relationship that he has with his kids, and he's hurting the relationship with his partner. And the time that he is robbing himself off or denying himself off, he's never going to be able to get that time back. So he's missing out on those golden opportunities to connect with his kids and to spend quality time with his family, because he is not manning up and say, hey, let me put this whiskey away, let me go home and confront this issue so that we can start working on it. And that's what he needs to do. He needs to confront it, he needs to man up, and he needs to get someone neutral if he needs to and work through the issue with his partner so that he doesn't become a slave to the whiskey.
Well, he has the XY Spark app. You know, if I'm just gonna talk to me, I'm gonna tell him straight up. You know, but I'm like, that's mad, man. That makes no sense. You say it's not your
Yes.
wife, you're not your kids, but realistically, it's everybody. Because if you're
Mm.
feeling like the kids, you know, you gotta say something. The liquor is not gonna do anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna be all
Absolutely.
drowsy and drunk after and feel nice. I get it.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
does that do in the end?
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know what, Nando? This is a good point for us to end on this week. All
Right.
right, we really talked about some important things this week. And guys, if you're joining us live on Facebook or you're watching the pre-recording on Twitter and LinkedIn, we'd like to hear from you. How did this podcast tonight help to encourage you or to empower you to do something? And as usual, if you want to reach out to us, please, you can send us a message on any one of our socials. You can email us at hyman@xyspot.org. You can catch us in the app. You can catch us on Facebook, catch us on LinkedIn. But we're here and we want to connect with you, because remember, guys, at XY Spark, we believe that there's a spark in you, because personal development, it's not an event, it's a lifestyle. And
Lifestyle.
we're dedicated to teach you how you can live that lifestyle.
Yep. Thank you again, everyone, for joining. That was live and direct with our coach, you know, founder, XY Spark, very much. Co-host here, Rolando Hyman Jr., our main host, Rolando Hyman. But today, you know, pretty much is again, the topic was what are some of the stereotypes that impacts a man's identity. It's a big thing in the society, not only it's worldwide, you know, it's really that, you know, you see more and more men falling into that trap of just giving
Mhm,
up. And we're here to help. We're not here
mhm,
to judge. We're not here to say anything weird. We ourselves have our story. We're not afraid to share it. It always
mhm.
has not been perfect all the time, you know, but we grow and we do better. And with, you know, help and training, we're getting better. So again, guys, and again, it's not a marathon, huh? Is it a marathon?
Yes.
XY Spark, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Guys, thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you guys not next week,
But
but
the
the week
week,
after.
all right, see y'all. Have a nice night.
This is XY Spark, restoring holistic, healthy masculinity.